Okay, let's clear something up real quick. Thaddeus is not a ghoul. I've seen YouTubers talk about this, I've seen people online talk about this, and people have brought up the theory that he is instead a super mutant, but he's not a super mutant. I've also seen people speculate that he might be turning into a centaur, and he is also not a centaur. So today we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about why he can't be a ghoul, why he can't be a centaur, and why he can't be a super mutant, and then we'll talk about what he likely actually is. So go ahead, pour yourself a bowl of sugar bombs, and let's figure out exactly what Thaddeus is. Hi, I'm Sane, and this is the Saner Gamer, where we talk about video games. I release a video every 2 weeks, so subscribe to stay updated and join in on the conversation. Otherwise, shoot this video a like and let's get into it. So since you're watching this video, I can safely assume that you already know what happened to Thaddeus. He got into an argument with Maximus, and during the resulting scuffle, Maximus stepped on his foot while wearing power armor. The weight of the armor popped his foot like a zit and left it mangled. Thaddeus then limped through the wasteland for a good while before eventually bumping into a snake oil salesman who promised him a cure. He loaded a strange liquid into a hand pump aerosol device that I'm just going to call an inhaler. So after getting the strange liquid pumped into his mouth, his foot immediately makes a full regeneration and he's able to normally walk again. Thaddeus pretty much just continues on his merry way. But at the end of season 1, he bumps back into Maximus, and Maximus tells Thaddeus that he thinks that Thaddeus is a ghoul, and this leaves Thaddeus believing this to be true, and for the most part, also the audience. So let's talk about the process of becoming a ghoul, or ghoulification as it's called in universe, and the main and for a long time seemingly only way to become a ghoul is exposure to radiation. High exposure to radiation has two possible side effects, the first being that you die from severe radiation poisoning. However, some people, rather than dying, get mutated by the radiation and become ghouls. This increases their lifespan indefinitely. So far, no ghouls have died of old age, but I don't quite think it's impossible. It also grants immunity to radiation by being able to absorb it rather than being fatally affected by it, leading to glowing ghouls. It also increases resistance to physical damage and powerful regeneration abilities, even being able to reattach severed limbs by simply holding them up to the resulting nub of the amputation. The other way was introduced in Fallout 76 as a gameplay mechanic to allow the players to become ghouls. This process involves taking an inhaler and then entering a radiation blast chamber. The process of ghoulification is about the same. The only difference is the guaranteed transformation rather than flipping a coin on whether or not the radiation kills you. This guaranteed transformation is probably due to the inhaler, which likely wards off the lethality of high doses of radiation without actually curing it. And Thaddeus does accept an inhaler, but at no point is he exposed to high doses of radiation. And although he exhibits some of the physical traits of becoming a ghoul, like the regeneration and the effects to his skin, really do seem to be the early signs of ghoulification. Ghouls, however, lose their nose rather early in the ghoulification, to the point where you will lose your nose before you are visibly a ghoul. And this has not happened to Thaddeus, and the mouth looking thing on his collarbone is also not affiliated with becoming a ghoul. Plus, the scene where his arm literally just falls off is not a part of the ghoulification process. And if he was becoming a ghoul, he would have been able to reattach the arm by simply just holding it against where it fell off from, maybe blasting it with some radiation in the process. The show really did do a great job of selling the idea of him becoming a ghoul through a new unknown method at the beginning, but it becomes blatantly apparent that he is not a ghoul rather quickly. So what is he? A lot of people online have speculated that he's becoming a super mutant, which is definitely also not the case. And to prove that, we have to talk about how super mutants are made. So super mutants are created by exposing human beings to FEV, the forced evolutionary virus, in a process known as dipping, where the subject is fully submerged in a vat of FEV. There are a lot of different strains of FEV and subsequently lots of different types of super mutants, but that would be its own video. But to sum it up rather quickly, to become a super mutant, one has to be exposed to large amounts of specific strains of the virus. We first see super mutants being made by the Master at the Mariposa military base, which is actually a location that I'm currently working on a video for. After that, we see super mutants being created at Control Station Enclave, Vault 87, the Institute, as well as the West Tech Research Center in Appalachia. One thing that stays consistent is the process of turning into a super mutant. It begins with the loss of visible gender indicators, essentially losing all genitalia, and in the case of women, also losing their breasts. In conjunction with this, subjects also experience an increase in upper body strength, along with increased muscle mass, forming muscles in line with a male physique. Over time, the subjects begin to grow taller, as well as developing thicker skin that slowly begins to turn green. And once they are completely asexual, big, muscly, and green, they are the super mutants that we all know and love. During the transformation, most subjects also lose much of their mental capacity and experience an increase of aggression. So just big, dumb, strong meanies with a resistance to radiation and damage. And as we can see in the show, Thaddeus exhibits none of this. While it's likely that what he took from the snake oil salesman is FEV, he is certainly not turning into a super mutant. Admittedly, we have no idea what's happening with his genitalia, and I'm honestly glad that we don't see that. We see none of the other effects. He has no increase in muscle mass, he's not gaining height of any kind, and his skin is not turning green. Also, losing limbs is not part of the process of turning into a super mutant. All of this would absolutely be happening because, at least in the case of Vault 87, these changes to the physical appearance of the subjects exposed to FEV all happened within the first 3 days, and it's been well over 3 days since Thaddeus was exposed, so super mutant is out. As cool as it would be, he is not turning into a super mutant. People online have also speculated that he's turning into a centaur due to the weird mouth thing on his collarbone and the loss of an arm. People speculated that it could be the early signs of turning into a centaur, but that is also most definitely not the case. Centaurs are weird, having multiple variations like super mutants, but the variations are completely unique to each other, and this is due to how centaurs are made. They are made by combining human and animal DNA in a vat of FEV together, fusing the animals and human together. We have a two-headed variant in Fallout 1 and 2 that are explicitly stated to be fused with a dog and other animals. We also have a single-head centaur that appears in Fallout 3 in New Vegas. Still spliced with animals, it maintained having only one humanoid head. Centaurs are created through hybridization of multiple species and only appear in a few games for very strict reasons. The centaurs in Fallout 1, 2, and New Vegas are from the Master's army of Fallout 1, no longer being created as far as we can tell. They are the result of experimentation on the FEV conducted by the Master during the events of Fallout 1. The centaurs in Fallout 3 were being created in Vault 87, again the result of experimentation on the FEV, but this time by Vault Tech scientists in Vault 87. They, however, do not exist in Fallout 76 or Fallout 4 because up in the Commonwealth, the Institute is not making centaurs, and also in Appalachia, the West Tech Research Facility is not making centaurs, so they don't exist in those games because they're not being made. The most important thing to note here, though, is that they are the direct result of combining human and animals into one single mutated being. And as we obviously see in the Fallout TV show, Thaddeus does not undergo any kind of hybridization during his exposure to FEV, and thus cannot be a centaur. And not much else really needs to be said on the matter. The guy isn't a centaur, nor will he ever be a centaur. And just because he has the weird mouth thing, and also he lost his arm, and the centaurs don't have arms, that does not mean that he's becoming a centaur. And the fact remains that bro is not a centaur. So what is he? The answer is rather simple. He's a mutant. Not a super mutant, but just a regular mutant. We see multiple examples of mutants in the Fallout universe that are not centaurs or super mutants. The most obvious example being Harold, who is in Fallout 1, 2, and 3. Starts off as what appears to be a ghoul with a tree growing out of his head, and eventually becomes what appears to be a tree with a ghoul growing out of its trunk. Even though Thaddeus is obviously a mutant due to his exposure to the FEV, Harold is the best piece of evidence we have to prove that he is. When we first meet Harold, he doesn't look like a mutant. He looks like a ghoul with a tree in his head, which tells us that some forms of mutation can have symptoms similar to that of ghoulification. The next mutant we have to get examples from is the Master himself. This mangled piece of flesh horror is honestly not much to go by for what could happen to Thaddeus. The Master repeatedly exposed himself to and dipped himself into FEV, resulting in compounding mutations until he eventually became the horror he was before he he was killed by the Vault Dweller. And finally, we have the Psychers, who are humans who are injected with FEV with the hope of opening their mind to psionic abilities such as future sight and telekinesis. As the Master had the ability of telekinesis, he wanted to explore further into the matter and see if he can give these abilities to other people. Mama Murphy in Fallout 4 is likely another form of Psyker, so it will be cool to see if Thaddeus develops some kind of telekinetic power. But to sum all of this up, Thaddeus is certainly a mutant, just not a super mutant. We have yet to see what will come of his mutations, but all those people saying that he's a super mutant or a centaur, or even people who think he might still be a ghoul, these people are just blatantly wrong. To have Thaddeus become any of these creatures would be a massive mishandling of lore by the showrunners, and considering the great love they have for the Fallout universe, I don't see that happening. Will the mouth thing on Thaddeus' collarbone sprout some kind of sentient plant like what happened with Harold, or will he continue to change and become some sort of human flesh monster like the Master, or will he develop some kind of mental abilities, or will he become something completely new that we haven't seen in any of the games yet? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out as the show continues. But that's really all that I have. He's a mutant. So thank you so much for watching. I am Sane, and this has been the Saner Gamer. This is easily the shortest video I've ever made, but I had a lot of fun making it. I dive deep into topics on all kinds of video games on a regular basis, so feel free to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next one. If you want to see another video I've made, you can check out this video I did on The Last of Us, where I talk about how Joel deserved his fate in The Last of Us Part 2. Or if you want more Fallout lore, I have this video on the Eldritch God of the Wasteland that permeates between multiple titles. If you enjoyed this video, shoot it a like. That really helps out, especially for a new YouTuber who is still trying to build his audience. But thanks again for watching, and peace out.